All right, welcome to the second episode of Build Onchain. My name is Christian. I'm a product manager here at Eco, and today we're going to be talking to Matt from Caldera. Matt, do you mind introducing yourself really fast?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Matt, co-founder and CEO of Caldera. Been in crypto on and off for the last decade or so, and for the last 3 years, been dedicating my life to helping Ethereum scale.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And do you mind telling everyone a little bit about what you're going to present today?
Yeah. So I'm going to present like a fairly full cycle demo of the Caldera product suite as it exists today. Caldera, we're basically known for two things. The first is our rollup engine, which we've been developing, the majority of the company's lifetime on, which is basically the easiest way for people to launch customizable, dedicated layer twos and layer threes that all settle on Ethereum. And then we're also going to be quickly demoing the first kind of iteration of our meta layer bridge, which is our interoperability protocol that will support stablecoins and major token bridging across our entire ecosystem.
Nice. That's super sick. Okay, well, let's get into that, and then I'd love to just ask you questions as we go, and then talk a little bit about what you're excited about going forward for Caldera and new stuff in the rollup space. So let's see it.
Okay, awesome. Oh, sorry for the infinity mirror there. Yeah, so I'll just kind of run through it. Feel free to interrupt me at any time. But basically, when a user, they'll go to our website, they'll click get started. It'll take you to a dashboard that looks like this. This is basically kind of like the hub that companies and projects use to manage their chains, both testnets and mainnets. Just simply deploy, press new rollup. I'll fill this in. It takes around like 15 minutes to deploy. So I've pre-prepped one that I deployed earlier today. But generally, you get to customize everything. So you can customize the chain name. That's just kind of for internal purposes. The chain ID, obviously, that needs to be unique. The slug/subdomain for all of your URLs, whether it's on testnet or mainnet, that affects these options below. So testnets, you'll be settling on testnets. Mainnets, you'll be settling on mainnets. We support the top 3 stacks that exist right now: Arbitrum Nitro, the OP stack, and recently the ZK Sync stack. One of the things that we really pride ourselves on are just making these decisions really, really clear to whoever's deploying. So you can see you get a kind of like a little menu on the side here that explains every kind of technical choice that you're making. So
That's
one
cool.
of the most. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, like, how do you help developers make decisions about what rollup stacks to choose? Because this is something like, I know many teams think about. It's very challenging to understand like the differentiable features between the various stacks. So like, how do you make it easy?
Yeah. So although we have like this kind of self-serve dashboard, I would say, especially once teams are going to mainnet, we spend a lot of time individually with each team, understanding the requirements of their product or their protocol, and then we make stack recommendations based on that. Typically, for most projects, like 1 or 2 stacks will work, but over the course of just speaking with them and understanding their needs more, one stack will emerge as like a clear winner, right? So, basic example is if someone's building like an on-chain game and they need like the fastest block times possible with like a very inexpensive, per transaction cost, they're probably going to go with something like Arbitrum, which has right now like a very, very short block time and obviously a lot of different DA options. If a team comes to us and they say, we absolutely need ZK as the settlement proof process on our chain, then they'll go with ZK Sync, right? And there are many, it's the OP stack also has its own features like their super chain interoperability that would make someone choose them. And so typically it just comes down to understanding the tech and making sure that our customers understand the tech as well. And then there's also the kind of ecosystem and community aspect of it. Like some people, they just know they want to be a member of the Arbitrum community or the OP community or the ZK Sync community. And so it's very easy to support those customers because they come in with a stronger idea of what they want.
Totally. That makes a ton of sense.
Cool. So yeah, you know, all of these options right now are available. We support Celestia for Arbitrum, their AnyTrust DA, and then of course Ethereum DA. We also support custom native tokens, and so this is like the token that is like the ETH equivalent on the chain, right? So on Ethereum, it's ETH. On Polygon, it's Paul, formerly Matic. We support custom native tokens. In this UI, we only offer a few basically to demonstrate that we have the capability to do this because, you know, if you're not careful and use a kind of non-standard token config, it is like surprisingly easy to break things sometimes.
Totally.
And so when we're working with like a team directly in a more kind of enterprise fashion, we work with them to make sure that their token is supportable.
Totally. And do you mind, like, just for some people who are watching this, explain to like why it's so much easier to deploy a rollup with Caldera than to do it yourself? Like, talk through like updating the stack, basically things you do invisibly behind the scenes, like update the OP stack when there's updates, or deal with like maintenance and DevOps issues. Do you mind talking through why a developer would want to use a service like this?
Totally. Yeah. So, you know, just as an engineer, candidly, like roll up stacks have been like one of the hardest pieces of software that I've ever needed to figure out how to run. There are just so many different components. And so one aspect of it is literally just like making sure that you can run all these components in like an industry standard, secure and high uptime way.
Totally.
You know, that is actually, you know, it's not that difficult, but it will take a lot of time for any company to like rebuild everything that we've built in-house from scratch. And then there's the second piece that you mentioned, which is like the maintenance. That is actually what we found to be really key as we've you know, just kind of been doing this for the last couple of years. And it's actually really timely. Like right now, while I'm on this call, like the rest of my team is doing our final checks on the Pectra upgrade, because that would actually break a lot of rollups had they not been upgraded. So if you don't stay up to the latest version, it's not just a matter of like you may miss out on some features here or there. Like if you're not staying up to date pretty consistently, like one day you might wake up and the L1 is upgraded and your chain is just totally broken.
100%.
So like we basically handle all of that. And it's much better for the space as a whole because we now have like very solid internal processes around upgrades and planning and communication and et cetera, et cetera. So no one else needs to like duplicate the work of having to figure that out themselves.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like upgrading a rollup, like for example, upgrading the OP stack, you're like, I mean, people use this like analogy sometimes, but I guess you're like literally repairing a plane in flight and you have to make sure that the plane like doesn't crash. You don't lose any data. There's not like a state transition that's not illegitimate. It's like actually a really hard thing to do to like transition from one rollup stack version to another rollup stack version. Even something like that like is very helpful to have a team of dedicated engineers working on that. Because I remember when like the OP stack originally came out, I started going through the code base and I was like, this is so beyond my capacity for understanding. There's no way I would like tear through this in a day and be able to run it as somebody who just mostly does smart contracts. So it just takes a lot of like infrastructure and tribal knowledge that the team has to have away.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I mean, when we have, you know, everything configured, we go to billing. This should hopefully work. And then basically what we're doing on the back end is taking, you know, all the software, all of your configuration, throwing that, you know, into like a Kubernetes cluster. We deploy all the smart contracts on the settlement chain. So I think in this case, Ethereum Sepolia. And then we also spin up the sequencer infrastructure. And we say sequencer infrastructure is a shorthand for basically just kind of like everything that that we're running. But that includes things like the replica nodes, RPCs, monitoring, even auxiliary stuff like the block explorer, eventually the meta layer, router, software, that sort of thing.
Totally. I guess another question is like, how do you deal with like backups and data security and all that stuff and dealing with the state of the rollup and the databases? Like, tell me a little bit about like how you battle proof that for developers.
Yeah, I mean, on this front, like we just do our best to follow like top of the line kind of industry standard best practices. Our data gets backed up every day for a rollup. So, and by data, I mean like the disks are backed up. Obviously, all the data for the rollup is being posted to the DA layer or the settlement layer. And so it's very, it's relatively easy to kind of reconstruct a rollup even from just like the L1. But we back up the data to make that process like literally 100x faster. So, just like on Ethereum, syncing an Ethereum node can take, days if you're going from the very beginning. We basically are taking snapshots constantly and we preserve those. It's like a rolling backup system. So we do that every day and we preserve each daily backup for the order of a couple of weeks.
That's sick.
And then you also mentioned security. We like are really, really focused on security, as you can imagine. Like our threat model that we use internally is like, we are assuming that state level actors like North Korea are going to come after us at some point. I mean, to some extent, they already have.
I know. I've interviewed them. I know.
Yeah. Same here. We've interviewed so many. But what that means is basically making sure everything is secure at every level. So we have really strong kind of internal security policies as it relates to just like the personnel on the team, what software you can and can't have installed on your computer, et cetera, all the way to obviously all of our smart contracts are audited multiple different times. And then our cloud environments have also been audited for security. So we use different firms for each one, basically whoever's the best at any different level. But the goal is to basically make it as difficult to break into as possible. And then, of course, with the rollups themselves, you have a little bit of built-in security, right? With the proof system and the sense of finality, where like even if someone did get access to the infrastructure, the odds that they could just totally push an invalid state transition or double spend or something like that is relatively low.
Totally.
Cool. So let's actually see. So this is the one that we literally just deployed 3 minutes ago. As you can see, it usually takes us about 15 to 20 minutes for everything to be deployed. So my guess for this is like our RPCs are live, but the auxiliary infrastructure like the Block Explorer is not live yet. So I'll go to the one I did like a little under an hour ago, which was done with the same configuration, but should have everything up and running. So this is the view that a user gets once they've deployed their chain. We offer, you can, our RPC URLs. We're pretty transparent, offering like the addresses for the that the chain uses. These are like the EOA addresses of the sequencer, and then we have a bunch of contract addresses here.
And who provides the collateral for like the bond in the case that you're running like post-fjord OP stack, for example?
Yeah, typically we do, especially on a testnet like this. It's just testnet ETH to begin with, so we. Can check out log streams. This probably takes a little bit longer to spin up, so you're seeing some errors. But you can take a look at logs for their data availability server and the sequencer. We also have a faucet, and maybe this is a good time for me to show our hub page. So every chain that gets created gets one of these automatic hub pages that you can use to onboard users. All the branding and everything is configurable. So we support changing the chain image. You can like change the title, chain hub. And then, yeah, there we go. It'll update. We support changing all the colors, so you can do some really crazy stuff if you wanted to. But we provide these pages basically as an easy way for people to to like easily onboard to the chain. So you can like add to your wallet, use MetaMask. I think I added it already. Yeah. So here it is. And then users optionally can enable that faucet, which we have here, obviously for testnets only.
Cool. I guess a follow-up question would just be
Yeah.
like, this is a little maybe for some more advanced developers on here, but how much configuration do you offer when it comes to things like the fraud-proof window, block times, like block gas limits, things that like developers might want to optimize like on their specific chain environment?
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer is we can customize all of those things. Sorry, I'm kind of flipping back between tabs. I'll leave it on this one. The answer is that we can customize all of those things. We don't expose it in the front end because if you just basically have like input any integer here, there's a lot of possibility to like mess things up pretty badly.
Totally.
But we've worked with teams that have customized all of these things, and like within reasonable parameters, we can offer full amount of choice.
And if a team wanted to do something custom, let's say like modify something in the execution environment or add a precompile, does your team also offer like consulting service to do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we used to actually do this sort of stuff, like if we felt that we could productize it. So we did kind of do kind of consulting-y services for like, but we wouldn't actually charge for it. We would just add it. We would just maintain the IP and basically add it to our library of customizations. What that means is like we actually have a pretty good set of potential things we can offer, right? Everything from like staking systems to KYC enforcement to like easy interfaces for custom precompiles, as you mentioned. We have like a good set of things that that we can do, and of course like things like alt-DA and like shared sequencer networks, that sort of thing. So I guess in short, generally we found most teams that we work with can do pretty well with the stuff that we have already built, either the default stacks or this menu of customizations. If someone wants something more custom, we have a couple dev shops that we work with that we will refer people to. So we don't do a lot of consulting ourselves on our own. We're pretty focused on building like the product and the network and the ecosystem. But there are like a lot of options for teams that really want to customize things.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, just some like Q&A, I guess, some like follow up on that presentation.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about like what are some of the primary use cases you're seeing from teams that are building on Caldera right now? Like what spaces do you think people are excited about when they're deploying their own rollups?
Yeah, there are honestly so many. Maybe I'll take a sec actually just to share our public portal.
That'd be sick.
Yeah. So we built this relatively recently, and basically just a list of all the chains. And as I scroll through here, you'll see just how many different categories there are. Well, when we call a chain an ecosystem chain, what we generally mean is like it's positioned more as like a semi-general purpose chain. But like as you can see, we've got these ecosystem chains. We've got strong DeFi chains, gaming, DePIN a little bit, NFTs, like social. Right, we have this as gaming, but this is obviously like a meme coin chain. There are just like so many, even some AI projects are using us as basically running like data chains. So there's really like, a pretty diverse set of projects launching their own chain. I would say that the kind of trend over the last 3 months has been more AI and a little bit more DePIN than we've seen historically. But those two, they still don't account for like a majority of the interest, but we've seen the number of projects in those sectors go up a little bit.
Totally. I guess like another follow-up question as I'm seeing all these chains, something obviously when developers have to do when they have to start a chain is they have to go and talk to Hyperlane, or they might want to go talk to Layer 0 about getting them to support the chain, or go beg Circle, please Circle support my chain. How does Caldera help developers with that process? Like what kind of like products can you deploy on day one on a Caldera chain?
Yeah. So on the topic of like interop, with like a Hyperlane or Layer 0. So that's what we've been working on for quite a while. So very, very soon with the launch of our meta layer mainnet, projects will basically get a Hyperlane compatible system deployed on their chain from day one. And so it'll be totally integrated. This is like our UI for it. We'll have this page and also like an embeddable widget that developers can use in their apps. But this is basically all built with a combination of like Hyperlane for message passing, and then of course Eco and some other bridging providers for like intense settlement. So that should be totally squared away pretty soon for all the projects that are launching with us. And it's a good thing you mentioned that, because interop for us historically has been like by far the most requested category of integration, and so we're excited to be able to like offer that all kind of in a box.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, like that is like the problem. Creating a chain, you create this chain, you're super excited about whatever application you have, and then you're just on like in a desert of liquidity. Like people have to deposit through the main bridge. You have to go get people to support or protocols to support access to your chain. So MetaLayer is like an awesome solution. It means like when you launch day one, you're plugged into a network of all the other chains that Caldera supports, and like you can source liquidity from those chains. That's cool.
Exactly. And then for the rest, we have like a pretty big library of teams we work with in various capacities for integrations. So, everything from oracles to data tooling to third-party RPCs, explorers. We have contacts with like basically everyone in this space, and so we'll typically refer teams we work with to the market leaders in every category they need and help them get those set up.
Nice. That's awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I feel like that's the like literally, other than like maybe maintaining the rollup, the other hardest part that maybe teams underestimate if they go try to like launch their own infrastructure is then they have to go and broker these relationships with literally like hundreds of protocols. It's so much work, and Caldera making that easier helps a lot. Cool. Well, anything else you want to talk about, or should we close out?
I think that's it. Yeah, happy to close out.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Matt, and thanks for tuning in to this episode of Build Onchain. All right.